Switzerland is what really kicked off the FATCA movement, or the FATCA law that was implemented in the US in 2010. Before FATCA, it was very common for people to hide money outside the US. I'm sure it still happens, but it's much harder to now because of FATCA. And what happened was, specifically with Switzerland, it was UBS, the bank over there, and they were proactively soliciting customers in the US to get their money to UBS in Switzerland so that they could hide their money from the IRS. And they were getting paid billions of dollars in fees. And they were actually sending Swiss employees to the US to solicit these customers, and there were US employees there too. And I actually listened to a speech of a guy recently. He wrote a book. It's called If you're liking this video, you should really check out my newsletter, where I put out different tips and tricks, latest law changes that can really help you save money and save complexity if you're living or investing abroad. Just think how much you could save with the right tax advice. Lucifer's banker, that's what it's called. This guy was the one that blew the whistle on UBS and actually told the IRS what UBS was doing and taking all this money out. And it caused a whole legal issue. He was ultimately thrown in jail, paid out $104 billion, I think it was, from the IRS for his whistleblower fee. But that whole scandal, it caused the IRS and the Treasury in general to look more deeply into cracking down on offshore tax evasion. And so they implemented FATCA, which was the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, which it requires foreign banks to disclose all their US account holder information to the IRS annually. So there's a form that they actually fill out that says, whoever comes, like if you go to HSBC in the UK, they're going to ask you, are you a US citizen? You have to say yes or no. And if you are, you have to fill out a form so they have your information, so that then they can provide your information and your bank account information to the IRS. The problem with that is, one, it's made it, some banks are just like, I'm not going to deal with US customers, more paperwork, so they're just kicking US customers out. And other banks, I guess the downside is, you are banking with them, they have your information, they're giving it to the IRS. So you have to disclose that information yourself to the IRS. If you don't do it, the IRS has your information so they can match it up. As of now, the IRS hasn't figured out a way to create that matching program. So they have your information. They know that you have a bank account at HSBC in the UK, but they haven't figured out how to try and match that information with what you provide on your tax return, because the format's a little different. But it really won't be that hard for them to take that next step at some point. It's going to cause a lot of problems for people that aren't currently, reporting their bank account information correctly to the IRS. Switzerland really kicked all that off because it was just such a massive tax evasion that was brought out. Because we have such a powerful financial center for the whole world, the reason banks even agree to this is because the IRS has blackmailed them in a way. And I say the IRS, it's really the Treasury, it's not the IRS, but they've blackmailed them in a way to say that you don't have to provide this information to us, but if you don't, we're going to withhold 30% on any transactions that's going from a US bank to your bank going forward. If they want to do business in the US, they're going to lose 30% of their money doing so. They either signed up and stopped doing business in the US or stopped doing work for US customers, or they're just complying with the rules. So yeah, Switzerland started the whole thing, a massive uncovering. I think the restrictions are only going to get more tight going forward. It's low-hanging fruit for the IRS if they can figure out a matching program, because at the end of the day, you don't need auditors, you don't need to pay humans to figure things out. In that case, it's simply a computer program saying, this form saying you had a bank account at HSBC and your tax return saying you aren't. Here's your penalty. I think that's what they're trying to do at the end of the day, is create these systems to where it's less manual work for them to figure things out, and then it's on you to defend yourself. If you're enjoying this video, please take a minute to like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below.